Welcome back to Creating Stuff with Jim. I'm Jim. It's time to create something. In the last episode for the Inferno build, we were working on the transmission. It's all done, it's ready to go. Now we have to move on to the front transfer case, or as I like to call it, the crawl box, is we need to get this set up. Now the beauty part about this is we're using a couple aftermarket adapter plates, we're using an aftermarket gear set, but the heart of this is being built out of an existing transfer case that you can find in an older Toyota. So you can generally get them pretty cheap. I got mine for free, so that free is good. So enough yak about it. Let's get to work.
All right, now we're getting to the fun part of it, building the crawl box. And this is the transfer case I'm going to use to build the crawl box. This is a 4-cylinder Toyota transfer case found anywhere from 1979 or late 70s all the way up to the mid 90s, as I stated already. So like I said, this is what we're going to use, and the reality of it is, the biggest thing we're really going to do with this is this section right here. We're mainly just going to use this housing, maybe a shift fork and a rail shift rod, and other than that, everything else is getting replaced. Everything back here is going away, and we're going to put an adapter up here, adapter behind it, and the adapter behind here will fit this transfer case. This is the complete transfer case, chain drive out of the Tacoma. So anyways, so that's what we're doing. This is going to be the most work anything we're going to do, although I haven't been cleaning up and restoring everything as pretty and pristine. This is actually going to get 100% cleaned up. I'm going to probably clean it up, put a coat of paint on it, and it's getting all new bearings and all everything, because it's getting a brand new gear set in here, brand new everything more or less. Like I said, we're only using the case. So anyways, let's have some fun. All right, now that we've seen everything that we're going to use, let's tear into it. Now, I will say, this has been sitting in my workbench for close to a decade, and I've stolen parts off it. So some things may not look like as if it came out of a vehicle. So, but we're starting at the back of the transfer case. First thing we do is take the rear flange off. Then we're going to take the back housing off. All right, back here, let's say that's your speedometer drive housing, and this is actually called your tail shaft housing. That's where your speedometer cable goes. This right here is your speedometer drive gear. And then these are the gears that they ride on. So, and luckily, I'm not worried about keeping any of this stuff clean, because I mean, everything back here is more or less garbage. Well, keep it for a spare, but I've already got plenty and I don't need any more. All right, then we got a snap ring right there we got to take out. Handy dandy snap ring pliers. And if you're watching this because you've never taken anything like this apart, you're going to learn to love to hate snap rings. It's just, it's one of those things, part of life. All right, snap rings off. Now we're going to remove the back half of this housing. There you go. And then the back half of the housing is off. Nothing like the smell of gear oil in the morning. All right. This gear comes out. I'm not going to need that anymore. And save these. We're going to need those. All right. Now the next piece is coming out. We got to take this shift fork out, so we can get that gear out. All right, we have a roll pin right there. Take a punch and a hammer. That's a treat for you guys. I didn't hit my finger. I have very bad aim with a hammer. Yep. Drop the roll pin. It'll show up eventually. This shift fork, and this is called a shift fork. This is a shift collar, and this is actually when you shift two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive. This is actually what engages it. And that gear I pulled out, these gears are your transfer gears. So you have coming straight out to the rear for your rear drive shaft, and then that's the output for your front drive shaft. But we're not using any of that on this gearbox. And this gear comes right off. Set that over there, and like I said, none of that stuff over there we are using again. All that stuff is going away. Take that little ball out. All right, now we're going to start working on taking the back half of this case off. So take this bearing retainer off. Now we're going to come back in here again. We have another snap ring that's got to come off. You hear curse words, don't be ashamed. I'll bleep them out. Sometimes it needs a little help. Snap ring off. Now we can go ahead and pull this back half of this housing off. Forgot a step. Got to take the detent balls out. And you know what? I'm gonna leave that mistake in the video just as proof that I ain't perfect, and I'm not pretending to be perfect. So, but the biggest thing about doing any kind of this work is don't be afraid to try. I mean, there's a first time I did this, and you know what? If you want to do it, I mean, you can do it. It'll be a first time for you. So, once again, don't be afraid to tear into something. The only thing I would recommend is if it's your only vehicle you got, you got no spares and no other mode of transportation, I'd kind of think twice about experimenting on that. You know, I've been there. Like I said, Big Red that I've showed you pictures of. Like I said, that truck was my only vehicle, and and that's what I learned on it. And doing all this stuff, and I had to beg my parents for something to drive. So it does happen. It can be done. So like I say, got that spring out. Actually, now I got to do the one on the other side. Now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Take this out. We don't need, this is our old main shaft. We don't need this anymore. We got all new bearings and everything going in. This we will need. This is the range shift fork and shift collar. We are going to modify it. Is since this will no longer have a shifter that will go from this gate to that gate over here. We're actually going to have to weld a little piece of metal across here to capture the shifter, because all it's going to do is shift this, and now this will be the only one. So we do need this. We're going to hold on to that. We should have a new one of those. So now, get parts out of the way. This is starting to get fun now, isn't it? Now, once again, to take this shift fork, the shift rod out, my apologies, is we got another roll pin we got to take out. All right, I'm not going to need this anymore, so I'm just going to cut that. Go figure. Now the only thing I'm going to use this for in the future is to plug that hole so I don't have a gear oil leak, and that's it. So shift rod. Now we're up to the front. You got to take this retainer off. Nope. That's not going to work. You know how many times I've done that? That impact driver takes it right off. Not this time. Oh well. All right, retainer's off. Now I got two more snap rings I got to take out. Sometimes you got to give it a little help. There we go. There's one. Actually, we're going to need that snap ring. All right. That's two. Wow, look at that. And once again, this is more stuff. You might need a snap ring or two off of one of these. That's going to be about it, because like I said, we're putting all new bearings on. Yep, there's that roll pin I was looking for. And also, I'm going to point out a design feature that Toyota put into some of their gears. I'll get this a little closer so you can see. But you see how it has a separate little plate on top of here? This is actually a friction plate. And if you'll notice, in some areas it's one tooth off, but in other areas it's like dead on, because it's about one tooth shy of the gear. But the reason this is this is a friction plate. This actually attaches to this gear, and what it does is this keeps tension on the teeth, so they're not loose, and it actually makes it run substantially quieter. These helical cut gears run quiet as it is. If you have a spur gear, and when I talk about helical cut and spur gears, is if you ever driven a manual transmission, you put it in reverse and you hear a round, round, round. That's a spur gear. These don't make any noise, but they can chatter a little bit. So this plate right here keeps tension on the teeth so they don't chatter and they run real quiet. So that's just a nice thing that Toyota did. They do a good job of building a good product. All right. Well, that's it for now. Now we got to clean this up.
Well, this video is getting a bit on the long side, so I think I'm going to make the decision I'm going to cut it off here. So you just saw the disassembly of a 4-cylinder Toyota transfer case, and if you want to see all the work that goes into putting a new gear set in and adapters so this will fit a Tacoma, or in my case Project Inferno, please tune in to the next episode. And how do you know when that episode is gonna be available? Well, you just need to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done already. And please, if you like the video, please like it, share it with your friends, and I'll see you in the next one.